Esther, the fearless queen. If you've ever felt overlooked, if you've ever wondered whether your voice really matters, or if you've ever been afraid to step into a moment you didn't ask for, this story is for you. The story of Esther doesn't begin in a palace. It begins in obscurity. Esther was a young Jewish woman living in exile, far from her homeland. She was an orphan raised by her cousin Mordecai. No royal blood, no powerful name, just an ordinary woman living a quiet life. But God often does His greatest work through people the world barely notices. At the time, Persia was ruled by King Xerxes, powerful, wealthy, and unpredictable. After Queen Vashti was removed from her position, the king searched for a new queen. Women from across the kingdom were gathered, and Esther was taken to the palace. She didn't campaign for the crown. She didn't push her way forward. She was simply chosen. Esther 2:17 tells us, "The king loved Esther more than all the women, and she obtained grace and favor in his sight more than all the virgins. So he set the royal crown upon her head and made her queen." But even as queen, Esther kept a secret. Mordecai warned her not to reveal that she was Jewish. Why? Because being Jewish in Persia was dangerous, and soon that danger became deadly. A man named Haman rose to power, proud, arrogant, and hungry for control. When Mordecai refused to bow to him, Haman didn't just want revenge on one man. He wanted an entire people wiped out. Esther 3:6 says, Haman sought to destroy all the Jews throughout the whole kingdom. A decree was issued. A date was set. Death was coming. And Esther? She was silent. Not because she didn't care, but because she was afraid. Approaching the king without being summoned could mean death. Even as queen, Esther's life was not guaranteed. So Mordecai sent her a message, words that still echo today. Esther 4:14 says, "Who knows whether you have come to the kingdom for such a time as this?" In other words, Esther, this moment isn't random. Your position isn't an accident. Your fear doesn't disqualify you. It confirms the weight of the calling. And Esther had a decision to make. Stay silent and be safe for a moment, or speak up and risk everything. Esther responds with courage that didn't come from confidence, but from surrender. She says in Esther 4:16, "I will go to the king, though it is against the law, and if I perish, I perish." That wasn't recklessness. That was faith. Before she moved, Esther asked for prayer and fasting. She didn't rely on her beauty, her title, or her strategy first. She relied on God. And when the time came, Esther approached the king. Instead of anger, she received favor. Instead of death, she was welcomed. God was already moving behind the scenes. Through wisdom, patience, and divine timing, Esther exposed Haman's plot. The very gallows Haman built for Mordecai became the place of his own downfall. Esther 7:10 says, Haman was hanged on the gallows he prepared for another. What the enemy intended for destruction, God turned into deliverance. The Jewish people were saved, Mordecai was honored, and Esther's courage changed history. What's powerful about Esther's story is this. God's name is never mentioned once in the Book of Esther, yet His fingerprints are everywhere. In the timing, in the favor, in the reversal. This story reminds us that even when God feels silent, He is never absent. Esther teaches us that courage doesn't mean you're not afraid. It means you choose obedience even while afraid. It reminds us that your position, where you are right now, may be exactly where God plans to use you. And maybe today, you're standing at your own such a time as this moment. A conversation you've been avoiding, a stand you've been afraid to take, a calling you've been postponing because you feel unqualified. But God doesn't call the fearless. He strengthens the willing, just like Esther. So if you feel small, remember Esther was an orphan. If you feel unseen, remember God sees the bigger picture. If you feel afraid, remember courage often begins with prayer. You may not wear a crown, but you are placed where you are for a reason. And who knows, you may be here for such a time as this. If this story touched your heart, if it reminded you that God can use ordinary people in extraordinary ways, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel. It helps this message reach others who may need it, and it allows us to grow this community together. Your support truly means more than you know. Thank you for being here. You are appreciated, and you are part of the family.